everyone, my name is Lexi and today I will be answering your personalized book recommendation requests. Let's get started. Today I am doing such an exciting video because today I will be going through your personal bookish requests and trying to find books that you want to read. I love this video concept. I do this every single year and it's honestly so much fun to try to find books that fit your bookish prompts. I will say, as we go along, I would love to hear from you guys. If there is a bookish prompt or request and you think you have the very perfect book that you want to recommend, please say it down below in the comments. That way we have tons and tons of book recommendations, not only from me, but also for you. So if I read off a bookish prompt and you think to yourself, I know the perfect book for that, please leave it down below in a comment. And that's perfect too, because I honestly get so many of my book recommendations from you guys. So it'll be perfect. It'll kind of be like I'm recommending books to you, but also you're recommending books to me. There are so many bookish requests that were left. So thank you so much if you submitted a request. I'm gonna go through as many as I possibly can. I think there's over 200, but I think that's it for the intro. So without further ado, let's jump into it and get started on the bookish prompts and requests. I have not seen any of these and I'm honestly so excited. Okay. A book that encapsulates the feeling you got as a kid running down the stairs in your pajamas on Christmas morning. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, I've got it. I know that I have mentioned this book a million times, but to me, there is no other book that fits the vibes of this quite like Green Glass House by Kate Milford. This is like one of my very favorite middle grades of all time. It's a cozy mystery. It takes place literally on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and it's all about Milo and his Christmas with a bunch of strangers who mysteriously pop up and a mystery surrounding the inn that he and his parents run. It's honestly so wholesome, so perfect, and fully fits the vibe of this prompt. A whimsical book that makes you feel like you were in a winter wonderland. Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe vibes. Ooh, okay. Oh, okay. So I actually just finished this book and I think it's perfect for the prompt. It's called The Kingdom of Sweets and this is by Erika Johansson. And this is an adult fantasy about two twins and it's a retelling of the Nutcracker. So if you're familiar at all with the Nutcracker, where Clara actually finds a nutcracker and then she's transported into this magical toy land with like a beautiful winter setting, sugar plum fairies, toys, all of this stuff. This is basically the retelling of that tale. And this is a lot darker, but it does have those vibes of like going into a magical other world set in wintertime. A book that heals my heart while destroying it at the same time. Ooh, that's so good. Okay, for this one, I have to recommend Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This book fully 100% killed me, but also brought me back to life. The love story in here is not gonna be for everyone, but for those of you who like really connect with it, you're going to love it so much. It's a love story about two people who meet, I'm pretty sure like at a museum one day in Chicago, and it's about how they fall in love with each other, and it's very heartbreaking, it's very emotional. It has so many beautiful poetic lines that like made me fully cry. This is a 5-star for me, and if you're looking for something that's literally gonna break your heart but also is just so beautiful, this is the book. A book that captures the cozy Christmas feeling with all the decorating and baking. I've got it. I actually really enjoyed this book. It's called A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. This book is all about Mona, and Mona works at her aunt's bakery, and Mona is a wizard, but her powers and abilities are only connected to whatever she bakes. So she can control like sourdough bread. I think technically she has a sourdough starter as like a familiar instead of like a cat or a toad or something, and she can actually control like gingerbread men and things like that. You get a lot of like sweet treats in here, a lot of cozy wholesome vibes. It is a fantasy, and I think because of the gingerbread men, it feels very wintry to me. But like if you're specifically looking for a very whimsical feeling baking book, this is the one, and I really loved this and adored it so much. This one says a fantasy, winter, and adventure book that feels whimsical. Ooh, okay. I am currently reading A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos, and this is a YA French translated work all about a girl named Ophelia who can travel through mirrors, and then she is married off as like a political pawn. It's very magical, obviously like very wintry vibes. I highly recommend checking out this one because I am really enjoying reading it. A book with compelling adventures and hilarious characters. Got it. Okay, I could not recommend this book more. It's called Nettle and Bone, and it's by T. Kingfisher again. I love T. Kingfisher so much. I just feel like her writing is so whimsical and charming and a little bit dark, but also so funny. This book is absolutely hilarious. It's about a girl named Mara, and Mara has to rescue her sister, who is now a princess, and she has been married off to kind of like an evil prince, basically. To save her sister, she has to do like all of these impossible tasks. And it's interesting because it feels like a traditional quest and a traditional adventure fantasy book, but like as you go into it, every single character is just hilarious. I was laughing so hard throughout the entirety of this book. It's one of my very favorite like fantasy books of all time. I love it. I could not recommend it more. 5 stars. A book that is like when you're a kid and you're running through a forest searching for fairies. What an incredible prompt. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, I've got it. I could not recommend this more. This is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and this is by Heather Fawcett. This book is incredible. Now, it's not for little kids, it's an adult book, but our main character in here, Emily Wilde, decides to study fairies and the fae because when she was a kid, she had this exact thing where she was just obsessed with learning about fairies, and it really had a huge impact on her, and she ended up just dedicating her whole life to like the study of the fae and their world. And it's so incredible because there are so many different plot twists in here and little adventures that she gets up to. You see the world of the fae in like a very different lens, and I feel like it's a great book for this time of year as well, because one of the fae worlds that she goes into in this book is all like in the snow and in the ice, and so it's very atmospheric and like perfect for this time of year. If you are interested in like the fae, but you also want a cozy wintry tale, this is your book. Okay, the next one says a book that feels like the love between Achilles and Patroclus, or Patroclus. I don't know. I still don't know how to pronounce that name. Preferably MM. You know what? Yes, hold on. Okay, so technically Patroclus and Achilles is a Greek mythology retelling. If you're interested in a Greek mythology retelling, maybe you might want to try a King Arthur retelling. So this is called Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, and this is by Lex Crutcher, and this book is all about Guinevere and King Arthur who pretend to date while they have queer relationships. So I think it's gonna be a little bit more lighthearted, and I think also potentially a little bit more funny than Song of Achilles was. However, there is queer representation in here. King Arthur does have a male love interest as well, and it is a retelling, so I feel like the vibes are pretty similar to Song of Achilles in that regard. The next one says, a book set in winter that feels like a warm hug. Ooh. Okay, I personally feel like Frostheart by Jamie Littler definitely feels like a warm hug, and it feels so whimsical and cozy. We're following Ash, and Ash wants to find his family, and he's sort of like seen as an outcast almost in his village because he has this very interesting and unique musical ability where he can kind of control things around him through the power of song. He ends up going on this sledding adventure trying to find his family. He goes with his Yeti guardian, Tobu. It's very wholesome, it's very whimsical, and it really feels just like a warm hug on a cold winter's day. The next one says, a book that I can read in one sitting. Okay, I think I've got it. I think this book would be perfect to read in one sitting, especially around the wintertime season. It's called The Christmas Guest, and this is by Peter Swanson, and technically it's novella. Look at how short that is, but also look at how beautiful the cover is. Are you kidding me? I am so excited to read this. I actually heard about this from Gavin, and it sounds so good. So it says, from New York Times bestselling author Peter Swanson comes the spectacularly spine-chilling story of an American student spending the holidays in a British manor house, where she discovers secrets and a grim history hidden behind a seemingly charming Christmas celebration. It sounds really, really cool. It looks amazing. It's called The Christmas Guest, and this is gonna be perfect if you're looking for like a fast read to read all in one sitting that's hopefully going to grip your attention and feel super festive for the holiday season. The next prompt says, a book that you wish you could read it for the first time again once it's over. I really, really wish that I could read Piranesi again for the first time by Susanna Clark. This is an adult, honestly, I don't really know what genre you would call this. And I probably shouldn't try to guess either because I feel like it gives something away, but just in the realm of like being speculative, basically. We're following Piranesi, and Piranesi lives in this very whimsical, interesting place. It's basically like a maze full of endless rooms. And we're trying to learn about who Piranesi is and his world. The entire thing feels a lot like a mystery, and I actually felt very frustrated within the first like 50-ish pages or so because I just had no idea what was going on. And then finally, when I caught on to what was happening towards the end, I loved it so much. And I feel like everyone who reads this pretty much has the exact same reaction of being very, very confused and not really understanding what's happening. And then they are just totally, totally invested in the story by the end. And it was just such a great experience. I really, really wish that I could read this again for the first time. Highly recommended. I just thought it was amazing and so well done. A book that makes you feel like you're an amateur sleuth during winter season. And I've already read Murder on the Orient Express. Okay, perfect. I think you should try The Christmas Appeal by Janice Hallett. I hope I'm saying that name right. I have never read The Appeal by this author, but it was such an incredibly popular book and I'm very intrigued to try it. I wanted to pick this one up. It's really short. It's called The Christmas Appeal and it says one Christmas play, one dead Santa, everyone's a suspect. And I picked this one because not only is it set during the Christmas and winter season, but you mentioned that you wanted to feel like an amateur sleuth, which means I think you want to try solving the mystery as we go on. And the entire book is told in emails and notes and things like that. So I feel like it's perfect if you want to try putting together the mystery yourself. It definitely has the format to try to solve the mystery yourself at home. And also it is set during the Christmas season by an author who is very, very famous for her mystery thriller type books. A book that really feels like Christmas. Okay, this is actually my very favorite holiday romance. I think I recommend it every single year, but it's because I love it so much. And it's called In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. This is a very like wholesome romance. It's very, very sweet. It kind of reminds me a little of Groundhog Day because this is following Maylin Jones and she has had a crush on her childhood friend for forever and she keeps getting it wrong with him, and so the day actually keeps repeating. So she lives out like Christmas Eve, I think Christmas Day, or like around then again and again and again until she can finally get the romance right. It really feels like Christmas though because there's like snowball fights, Secret Santa, fireplaces. It's all about her and her family getting together with her family's best friends. They all spend every single Christmas season together in a cabin and it's just so cozy, so wholesome. One of the best Christmassy type books I've ever read and I just loved every second in this world. This one says, recommend the perfect cozy Christmas day read. Okay, in my opinion, this is one of the best Christmassy type books ever. It's called The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. I am obsessed with this book, you guys. This is a retelling of A Christmas Carol. We're following Holly Chase, who actually failed A Christmas Carol. So if you're not familiar, essentially like Scrooge in the original Christmas Carol was visited by 3 different ghosts and he was convinced to kind of change his ways and become a better person and care more about humanity. And he was given like a second chance at life, basically. Well, anyways, Holly failed her tests. She's like one of the only people, I think she's the only person in history to actually fail the Christmas Carol trials of like changing by 3 different ghosts. And her punishment is now she has to work for them. And then she ends up finding a guy who she is trying to help save. And she starts to develop feelings for him. This book ripped me apart. This was actually my very favorite book of the year that I read it. It is so well written. It is so well done. It'll definitely make you cry, but it feels very wholesome, very funny, and perfect to read around Christmas. A book that feels like a romantic evening in front of a fireplace in a cabin on a snowy night. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so perfect. Okay, I'm taking some liberties with this one. This is technically about a romance and it does take place in a snowy location getaway. And it feels very cabin-esque, but it's actually a thriller and it's by Alice Feeney, so it's not technically a romance. But the book is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I don't have the cover, so you only get this blue book, but trust me, it is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. And this book is following a couple, and the couple couple are having some marriage problems, and so they decide to spend the weekend away in a snowy getaway. Instead of a cabin, I think they're technically staying in a chapel, and it's actually like going through all of their past relationship together, and we're trying to figure out where some of the problems lay, but one of them is lying about something. It's a very, very good read so far. I'm only, I think, like 80 pages in, but it does kind of fit the vibes of the question. So if you're looking for a romance, but with a really big twist and more of a thriller, this might be your go-to answer. This next one says, a book to break a reading slump or a book hangover after reading a really intense book, a book that made you feel a little too much. I've got it. I've got it. Okay, I know that this is technically an older book and a lot of people always talk about it, but let me tell you, it is for good reason. I recommend Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. Perfect for this time of year, set in a snowy, cold adventure setting, but also I highly recommend pairing this with the audiobook. The audiobook is a full cast. There are 6 different characters. Every single character has a different actor, and this is probably the best audiobook I've ever listened to in my entire life. Everything is action-packed and full of adventure. There's romance in here. There's a heist in here. It's about 6 people who come together to pull like the ultimate heist. I don't think that it gets more fast-paced, more action-packed, or more thrilling, I think, than this book. It's just so well done, especially if you listen to the audiobook. One of the best books I've ever read. Recommended book in any genre that would be a great snow day read, has the vibes, and could potentially be read in one day. Ooh, okay. So I haven't actually read this book myself, but it's on my TBR and it's less than 300 pages. I think you could definitely read it in one day, and it's called White Out. This book is following a group of teenagers. It says a snowstorm like this hits Atlanta only once every 100 years. As the city grinds to a halt, a group of teens band together to help a friend pull off the most epic apology of her life. But will they make it happen in spite of the storm? It's perfect because it's like one big snow day following kind of like what looks like this epic love story. This next one says a book that combines adventure, romance, and humor, preferably with a quest. Got it. I absolutely adored Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This book is following Theodora, and Theodora has been cursed to only have half of her soul by a fairy, and she ends up going to London for courting season basically, or like ball season with her cousin, and while they're there they meet Lord Elias, and they're trying to get back Theodora's other half of her soul. So like the quest is trying to rescue her other half of her soul, and they have to go into the world of the Fae, but it's a beautiful love story. It's so funny. It's very, very cozy, very, very whimsical, and I just loved everything about this. Easily one of the best books I've read this year. A magical fairy tale that feels like a hug from your loved one. Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. I will personally always recommend Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. To me, this feels so wholesome and so cozy and definitely like a hug, but it's just so magical and wonderful. The first time I read this, I devoured this. This is one of the most beautiful books I've ever read. It's following Sophie, who has been cursed by a witch to look like she is older. She ends up becoming the cleaning lady for Howl, who is a wizard, and he lives in a castle that moves. It's about the adventures that they get up to. There's a little bit of romance in here. It's honestly so fun, so fast-paced, and so cozy. I love this book so much, I could not recommend it more. Recommend a book that feels like the Polar Express movie on a winter night. Okay, instead of the Polar Express, how about the Polar Bear Explorers Club? This is a middle grade. It's by Alex Bell. Look at the cover. It's so incredibly cute. It says, when Stella joins the Polar Bear Explorers on an expedition to the Icelands, her eyes are opened to a world of danger, adventure, and snow pirates. Out in the icy wild, there are giant yetis, magical golden geese, terrifying carnivorous cabbages, and important new friendships to be made. So if you're looking for a fun little journey through the winter with friendships and adventure and whimsy, check this one out. Recommend a book that's set in Europe with strong winter vibes with or without magic. Okay. I recommend this book. I have not read it yet, but I think it'll be perfect. It's called The Toy Makers, and this is by Robert Dinsdale, I think. So it says, the Emporium opens with the first frost of winter. While the Great War wages across Europe, there is a place of hope and enchantment in the heart of London. The Emporium sells toys that capture the imagination of children and adults alike, patchwork dogs that seem alive, toy boxes that are bigger on the inside, soldiers that can fight battles on their own, and into the family business comes young Kathy, running away from a shameful past. past, but Kathy is about to discover that the Emporium has secrets of its own. It feels super enchanting and super perfect for this winter season, and also it does take place in Europe. Cozy winter books would be great. Okay, when I think cozy and winter, I think of a cozy winter fantasy, so I highly recommend Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. This is a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. It's actually told in 3 different points of view, and every single one is really unique and interesting. If you're looking for a fantasy that has romance in it, adventure, and is very, very well written, I could not recommend this more. It definitely has the cozy vibes I think that you're looking for. Recommend a middle grade that has great vibes and characters that you would die for, except for Nevermore and other classics. Okay, I love this book so much. It's called The Extremely Inconvenient Adventures of Bronte Meadowstone. This is by Jacqueline Moriarty. This is about Bronte, and Bronte's parents have just passed away, and they have sent her a will saying that she has to complete all of these different tasks before she can get her inheritance. And she's like magically bound to this task. And so she ends up visiting all of her different aunts and learning all these different things. And her aunts all live in different areas in this magical kingdom. It is such a fantastic book. It's very whimsical, very charming, but all of the characters in here are people who I would die for. I love this book so much. It's one of my very favorite middle grades of all time. I think that book is great to read all year long too, because it has like all of the seasons represented in it. So if you're looking for something that is a little summery but also has winter vibes, that's a great one. I Want a Snowstorm with Howling Wind, Ghosts Are a Plus. Okay, you know the perfect recommendation is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is such a great book. It's a classic, it's messy, it's a gothic tale, but it definitely has like those cold howling winds, snowstorms, things like that. We're following Heathcliff and Kathy, who grow up in the moors, and they end up having this very tragic love affair together, but they can't really be together. It's a very cold, atmospheric book. There is a ghost present. It's very chilling, and while you read it, you're definitely going to want to like curl up by a fireplace, but I feel like this has the vibes that you're looking for. A book that just completely breaks your heart and destroys you. Okay, We Are Okay by Nina LaCour is a YA book that I think is one of the most beautifully written books I've ever read in my entire life, and it will absolutely destroy you and make you cry. It's following our main character, Marin, who learns something that ends up making her leave her hometown, and she goes to New York City, far away from her friends and family. It's a book that's really exploring a lot of grief. It's also a book that's exploring first love and first love lost, but the way it's written is so unbelievably beautiful. It's very short. It is set in the wintertime in New York City. I think it follows her and her friend during her winter break. It's perfect for the season, but it's also perfect if you're looking for a book that will totally destroy you in a very beautiful way. This one says, recommend the most beautiful wintry cover on your shelf. Ooh, I like this one. Okay, so I have 2. The first one I don't actually have, and I don't know anything about. I've just ordered it. It's Sophie Anderson's newest middle grade. I'm gonna insert the cover. Isn't this so beautiful? Oh my gosh. I think this looks so cute, so wintry, so whimsical, and it just came out. It's a middle grade. And then the other one that I have on my shelf, it's called Winter Magic. This is so beautiful, you guys. This is a collection of short stories by different children's authors, and they're all short stories that take place in the wintertime. I just think this is so unbelievably beautiful. I love this one so much. Please recommend a book where the main character is the villain or villainess. Okay, I cannot find this book anywhere, but I highly recommend checking out Assistant to the Villain. This just came out this year, and it's about a girl who answers an advertisement searching for an assistant, and it turns out she is the assistant to a big villain. I think it's supposed to be a romance. It's also supposed to be a comedy. I have not read it, and I know that technically it's not from the villain's perspective, but it is sort of, because it's from the girl's perspective who is on the side of the villain, making her an accomplice to the villain, so I think it counts. This one says, recommend a book you would read if you were snowed in. Okay, I personally love mystery thriller books, so I would read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. On the back it says, everyone in my family has killed someone. Some of us, the high achievers, have killed more than once. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it's the truth. Some of us are good, others are bad, and some are just unfortunate. Have I killed someone? Yes, I have. have. Who was it? Let's get started. That just seems like the type of book you would not be able to put down. I haven't read it, but it's on my winter TBR, and I definitely want to read it this upcoming season. Please recommend a book with a lovely librarian or bookseller. Oh, how cute. Okay. Would you settle for a magical librarian? Because if so, maybe check out Blood SisterScribe by Emma Torres, which just came out this year. It says, in this spellbinding debut novel, two estranged half-sisters are tasked with guarding their family's library of magical books, and they must work together to unravel a deadly secret at the heart of their collection, a tale of familiar loyalty and betrayal and the pursuit of magic and power. So it's got the library vibes plus a little bit of magic. Recommend me a multi-generational book that follows several generations in a family. Oh, cute, I love this. Okay. Maybe check out Wayward by Amelia Hart, which just came out, I believe, this year, and it's following 3 different generations of women, one around World War II, one in this current day and age, and then one back, I think, like, it was in the 1600s? Yeah, 1619. And I believe they're all witches, if I'm getting this right. There is definitely magic in here, but it's a generational story about them, and I'm pretty sure it involves magic. I've heard this is really, really beautiful. I've also heard to check trigger warnings because I think it also involves like abuse in relationships, but I think this might just fit the bill for the question. A book that gives hope to the girl or hopeless romantic that's never gotten to experience love. Boy, have I got the perfect book for you. I could not recommend this book more. It's called The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman, and it's one of the most beautiful books I've ever had the pleasure of reading. I read it this year, and it was so touching and emotional. It's following 3 siblings who believe that they are cursed in love. They've been told that their family has been cursed, that whoever they fall in love with is just doomed to die, and so they actively try to not fall in love. They come from a line of witches, they live in New York City, and we just see how love impacts each of their lives. Every love story is so beautiful, and this will make you really, really believe that love is possible and that love is so important. It's one of the most whimsical, magical, and beautiful books I've ever had the pleasure of reading. I could not recommend it more. 10 out of 10, like every star available goes to this book. It's perfect. Recommend a book to warm my soul from the inside out. Okay, so this book came out this year. I love this book so much, and it feels like a warm cup of tea on a cold winter's day. It feels like talking to a friend who you haven't talked to in a long time. And it also somehow romanticizes the mundane parts of life. I don't know how, but it does every single thing you would want in a cozy little fantasy. And that is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This is about Tress, and Tress falls in love with a boy who ends up getting kidnapped, and she has to go out and rescue him, and she sneaks aboard a pirate ship. It's following her adventures in this magical world, and it's just so lush and lyrical. It's so beautiful. It's so perfect. The world in here feels so unbelievably cozy and magical. Like, I could not recommend this more. I think this book would be perfect to read any time of the year. 10 out of 10. And I think, you guys, that's it. Thank you so much for all of your incredible recommendation requests. I think we had over 200 requests, and every single one was so good. Hopefully you found a book here that sounds really good to read this upcoming winter season. And I would also love it if you would like to recommend books in the comments as well. And if you have made it to this point of the video, please leave me the Santa Claus emoji. A big, big thank you to all of my members over in Foxenwood on my Patreon, and a big thank you especially to the Ink and Quill Club members who are all the executive producers of every video that I create. And I think, you guys, that is it. So until next time, book lovers, keep your head in the clouds and your heart in a book, and I will chat with you very soon. Bye!
Hey, Santa, the city is covered in snow tonight. Where did my love go? Santa, I'm waiting for him, but his